Hello, welcome to JustPrime. As part of this video, we are going to see the basic difference between the path variable and query parameter. So as per the previous video, we have already seen how to use this path variable and query param with the different videos. If you have not seen this, I will recommend you to go through the previous videos and see it once and come back here. So but in this video we are going to summarize the basic differences or use cases and syntaxes between these two, path variable and query parameter. So that's the main agenda of this video. So we are going to summarize the basic difference between the path variable and query parameter. So that's the main agenda of this video. So let's get started. So before starting we will see, so the basically the path variable is used to extract the URI data, whereas query parameter is used to extract the data from the query parameter. So that's the basic difference between the path variable and query parameter. So how we are going to use it, it's up to you how we are going to pass the data. You are want to pass the data as part of the URI or URL. So based on that you can start using it, whether path variable or query parameter. So first we will be seeing the purpose of the path variable and query parameters. So one of the difference is purpose. So path variable is used to extract the data from the URI path, whereas in case of query parameter we are using to extract the data from the URL. So what is this URI and URL? So let me show you on a simple example. I just created a simple example to understand or demonstrate this example. I have written a controller, and inside the controller I have written a different set of methods which we are trying to use it. So the first two methods we are trying to use it to demonstrate a single value of the path variable and request parameter. If we see here the path variable, we are trying to read the data from the path. This is the path variable, and we are trying to use the data from the URI. Whereas in case of request parameter or query parameter, request parameter or query parameter, so we are trying to use or extract the data from the query. So let me start this one. So the port is already in use, so let me stop it and restart it again. Yes, now it started successfully. So how we are going to use it, how we are going to test it? So let me test1/1. So the first example what we are trying to understand over here, if you see here, right? So this is a path variable and then followed by test1/id. So path variable, and you can give the corresponding ID. So you can give anything, whichever is have test data. So this is the way you can pass the data in the URI, and that name should be matched with the corresponding path variable. So that's the way you can extract the data and you can use it. So here to utilize it, I just defined a simple hash map with 1 2 3 as a key and corresponding values. So that's what we are retrieving. You are passing one and you are retrieving the corresponding data from the hash map. So this is the way you can use path variable and you can extract the data from the URI, whereas in case of request parameter you can use different method. Let me type to question mark id equal to 2. So this is the way you can use the request parameter or query parameter with question mark and id equal to corresponding value. So the syntax for this one is same. So the only thing is you have to use here request parameter. So as per to the request, you need to pass the query and followed by name and value. So that's the way you can extract the data from the URL. So the path variable use it to extract the data from the URI, whereas query parameter you can use to extract data from the URL by using the question mark followed by the corresponding parameters. And the next one is location. It's the same, extract the data from the URI path, and query param extract the data from the URL, so that we have seen the example. And the third one is syntax. So we are going to use path variable and followed by name, and whereas in case of query param query param followed by the name, so that we have seen the example. So this is the path variable and name, variable name, whereas in case of request param followed by this name. Whether you can use, if it's the same name, you can use directly over here. In case if the names are different, so then you have to pass the corresponding name over here. So that's the way we are covering both the scenarios. If it's the same name, you can use this example, and if its name is different, then you can pass the corresponding name over here. And the third one is example of the URI and URL. So you can use user slash followed by the name and get mapping. So in case of here, when we are trying to use it, then we are passing the question mark and the corresponding values. So this is the example. So fifth one is, this is a real example how we are trying to use it. So fourth one is method signature. In case of get mapping or post mapping, how we are trying to use it. Whereas in case of fifth one, it's a real one as per the URL, or when we are trying to use that particular REST API, how we are going to use it. So that is the example. And the sixth one is the method signature. So how we are going to declare the path variable and query param. So this is the third one we have already seen, right? So if the name is different, so you can use this one. Whereas if the name is same, then you can use directly like this. So it's up to you how we are going to define the name. So based on that, you can use this syntax or this syntax. So the next one, so multi-value support, the seventh one. So basically both path variable and query param will support the multi variable reading part. So let me demonstrate that example. So for this one, I have created two more methods at the end. You can see over here, test3 and test4. So test3, what is trying to do, it is trying to extract the multiple values as part of the request parameter, and by defining the integer id. So how we are going to use it? So let me call this method and question mark id is equal to 12, 13, 14. So this is the three different values I'm trying to pass to the IDs, and let me run it. So whatever I'm passing over here, it is coming back to as a response. I'm just returning the request parameter, I'm reading it, I'm just returning it back. That's it. I'm not doing any major logic over here. So you can send another value, so we'll be getting back. So this is the way the query parameter or request parameter will be reading the multiple values. So the next one, how the path variable will read it. Let me call the fourth method, id is equal to oh sorry. So here we need to pass like this. We don't need to pass the corresponding value. So this is the way we can able to read it. You can see over here, you can able to read the multiple values in the path variable as well. The syntax is over here, path variable followed by corresponding multi values you can pass over here. So I just pass here multi values. So it is reading it, it's coming back to URI. So basically what I'm trying to say here, so both path variable and query parameter will support the multi-values reading. So the next one or eighth one is usage. Typically, the path variable used to identify the path segments, whereas in case of query parameter, we'll use the kind of a filtering, sorting if you're using any specifying the operational or optional operators. So then you can go for query parameters. Whereas in case of path variable, so you can use path segments. So that's the main usage. And the ninth one or the default value, can specify a default value if the path variable is not present. So that is also possible. If you want a specify a default value in case if it is not present, or if user is not sending the value in case of URI, whereas in case of query parameter, so that will not support. So basically both the things, you can specify a default value and you can try to read the default value in case if user is not providing in whether it's part of the path or query parameter. So based on that, you can use the default values and try to execute the business case. So that's the default value. And the last one is, so you can make them is it's required, in the sense how you are make the validation part, whether you want to make it as a mandatory or whether you want to make it as optional. So that's the way you can use the required field, and you can use the false or true. Based on that, you can define whether it's a mandatory or not mandatory, so that you can also define, and it's possible. So that I have already shown the example, you can see over here required. So that's the way you can provide as a kind of validation thing, so whether you want to use this one or you don't want to use it. So that's the way you can use the required variable, and you can provide the validation part or mandatory definition. So I think that's all about this video, and we have seen almost 10 difference between the path variable and query parameter. And if you like the video, you can subscribe the channel for more subsequent updates, and thank you.